voice. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Union Talk. I'm AFT President and your host, Randi Weingarten. As some of you may know, we started these virtual town halls at the AFT when the pandemic started. It began as a way to keep in touch with our members during COVID when everything was shut down early in 2020. And it was a way of keeping connected in order to share information about the pandemic, answer questions our members had by bringing experts together as we navigated through the ever-changing virus, and also having a Tuesday every week or every other week that people could rely on as the AFT Town Hall. After well over a year of doing this, it's become a permanent fixture of our work here at the AFT. And this latest town hall was a huge hit, so I thought it would be good to share this as an episode of our podcast. Take a listen. Hi, everybody. This is our, God only knows how many town halls we have done, but this one is one that I think will bring joy to everyone who is listening. And what you have in front of you are one of our amazing leaders, Jerry Jordan from Philadelphia. Brendan Boyle, who is from Philly, will join us. He is the head of the Congressional Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, and Jerry will introduce him. And then someone else most of you don't know, advocate and extraordinary public servant by the name of Julie Morgan, who probably knows more in her little pinky about all the work and all the things that we have to do to make student loan and higher ed financing and higher education fair and affordable for people. And she has really helped as key to navigating the Biden administration to being incredibly fair about the various different things to make the promise of loan forgiveness real and public service loan forgiveness real. So, in the past 2 weeks, as many of you know already, we've been on overdrive. Well, we're on overdrive all the time, but now we've been on overdrive, kind of sharing information related to the work on public service loan forgiveness. And let me just recap quickly what has happened. First, there was the Miguel Cardona announced Secretary of Education, and then we had done a town hall that night with him and Becky Pringle and Julie and the Undersecretary for Higher Education, James Quao, about the various different changes that the Department of Education were making for a year. Those are in a special waiver till October 2022. And then those changes included trying to unwind some of the Kafkaesque stuff that DeVos and others had done to make things in public service loan forgiveness completely surreal and frankly impossible to navigate. And, we saw 98% of the people who were supposed to get public service loan forgiveness, meaning work for 10 years in the public service, whether you're a nurse, a teacher, not-for-profit, work for not-for-profit, work as a firefighter, and you pay your loans for 10 years, you were supposed to get the rest of them forgiven. 98% didn't get them forgiven. This was a bipartisan program, by the way, passed by Congress, including Ted Kennedy and Hillary Clinton, and signed by George W. Bush. But DeVos decided to make a mess of it. Program started in 2007. 2017 should have been the first time that people got their loans forgiven. And it was a complete mess. 98% of the people didn't get their loans forgiven. And equally important, some of the servicers put people not just in a Gordian knot, but in such a surreal, horrible situation that we have one member. He actually had many people in this situation, but I'll give you one example where somebody had $10,000 debt for her bachelor's degree, had a $20,000 debt for her master's degree. And by the time Navient was done with her, she was paying $61,000, not $30,000. And so we're seeing these kind of terrible situations across the country. Okay, that's all over. Meaning, with the settlement Elections really matter. This Department of Education, as bad as the last one was, is as good as this one is. And what they did is they agreed that everyone, and this is probably the most important thing I can say to you, everybody who got rejected before November 2020 is going to get an automatic review under all the new rules. And then everybody else who's gotten rejected is getting a review if you want it. So there's a lot of work that we're doing right now, but I want to spend the rest of the time on the issues of public service loan forgiveness. You work incredibly hard all the time. This promise that was made to you that says that if you paid your loans for 10 years and worked in teaching or nursing, the rest would be forgiven. Our union is doing everything we can to make sure that promise is kept. And I believe with this settlement, that promise will be kept. We just need to make sure you know the information. And with that, let me introduce AFT Vice President, but also President of the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers, Jerry Jordan. Like me, he is a high school teacher, but he's a high school Spanish and English as a second language teacher in the Philadelphia School District and is working on a leave, like I am, as the president of the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers. Thank you, Jerry, for joining us today.
Thank you. I am absolutely delighted to be here this evening talking about an issue that is so critical to the members of our local and locals across the nation. First, I want to congratulate and thank AFT, Randy, and all of your team for your incredible work on this really seismic shift in our collective societal approach to student debt. From the legal and research teams to the higher ed staff, to the comms teams, to the political staff, to the organizers working to capture our members' stories and build action around this cause, the AFT staff has really been at the forefront of this issue. And the impact this leadership will have on thousands upon thousands of members is very significant. I also want to thank AFT members that have been willing to share their stories about student debt publicly. Your advocacy has been critical in this fight. And of course, I want to thank Philadelphia's own Congressman Brendan Boyle. The overhaul of the public service loan forgiveness program will have a remarkable impact on so many of our members. Teachers and school staff come to this career to make a difference in the lives of children and to impact the future of our society. They work day in and day out to be there for our students, and this has never been more clear than the efforts throughout the COVID pandemic. But for far too many of our members, the commitment to a career in education also means a perpetual and insurmountable student debt. I don't need to convince anyone on this call, but let's just be clear for the record. It makes no sense that someone commits their career to educating the next generation and gets saddled with debt that stays with them for a lifetime. And so that's why what the AFT, in partnership with Congressman Brendan Boyle and with the support of the Department of Education under Secretary Cardona's leadership, and staffed with talented advisors like my fellow speaker, Julie Morgan, have been able to achieve is really, really important. Our members are excited about this, and we have been working to ensure that they are getting all the information they need to make this ruling work for them. One of the most common questions we have heard is, does this apply to me? And I am really grateful to AFT for providing a benefit that will not only answer that question, but will also help walk our members through a process that is often confusing. So here's the quick answer to that question. Does it apply to me? AFT's Benefit Summer will help you navigate that smoothly. Just visit www.aft.org/PSLF and sign up for summer. It's that simple. It is really great to be able to be on this town hall this evening talking about good news. And so I thank you, Randy, Congressman Boyle, and I thank you to your remarkable staff for their expertise throughout this process. I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Jerry. I see Representative Boyle. So Congressman Boyle, who's been representing the Pennsylvania 2nd District, is currently in his 3rd term. He's born and raised in the city of Philadelphia. He's the first Jew in his family to attend college. And he's been a big proponent of making college affordable. He's hosted one of our AFT debt clinics. And frankly, not only has he supported the changes to PSLF, he understands this intimately and now co-chairs the Congressional Public Service Loan Forgiveness Caucus. And I know because of everything that's going on with Build Back Better, and I just saw some of your tweets, Congressman, and with, the infrastructure bill, you've been so out there trying to make sure that we have this amazing jobs agenda, and affordability of college is so much a part of that. I just am so grateful to you and to your advocacy, because frankly, we would never have gotten the changes I think we've gotten from the Biden administration, as important as they thought they were, without your relentless advocacy for them. So I just wanted to say thank you. And to everyone else, Congressman Brendan Boyle.
Well, thank you. Thank you to President Randy Weingarten, who has been a familiar presence in my district in Philadelphia. I can't remember the number of times now that I've joined with you, Randy, in Philadelphia over the last several years, including outside the very first school I attended, where I attended Lowell Public School in the neighborhood where I grew up in Philadelphia. I also want to thank my good friend, the longtime president of the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers, Jerry Jordan, as well as our state federation president, Arthur Steinberg. I am, by the way, I am in my 4th term, and I'm 44, and I may have been recently carded, believe it or not, but I have to say, having been in Congress for 8 years now, and having been in elected office for 14 years, I am now starting to appreciate if perhaps I look a bit younger than my age. Sure enough, people who kept telling me that one day that would be an advantage, I don't get hit with being like the old looking guy, even though I've actually been in this for a little while now. So anyway, thank you, Randy. And as Randy pointed, I'm the first in my family, or pointed out, I'm the first in my family to go to college. I'm also proud to say I am the husband of a 20 plus year public school teacher. My wife has taught both in the DC area and Philadelphia, kindergarten, 1st grade, and now teaches 2nd grade. And our daughter, our only child, is herself in 2nd grade. So when I talk about how indebted we are to teachers at any time, but especially over the last 18, 19, 20 months, I really mean it. In my own household, we had at one point during the pandemic for many months, I was in one office, a little office we have in our house in Northeast Philadelphia. Across the small hall is my wife teaching 2nd grade from our dining room. And then our daughter, who was in 1st grade at that point, she's at her kitchen table learning virtually 1st grade. At one point, you could hear all 3 of us talking all on Zoom. So that was life for so many families and for so many teachers. And I know through my wife's experience, staying up past midnight every single night, it basically was double work, and has been double work for teachers for the last year and a half. And that has really not gone noticed, I think, by a lot of people. Teaching virtually for my wife and for a lot of teachers really meant double the workload, including when it was hybrid, having some kids in the classroom and some kids online, because for teachers, that meant they had to recreate all of their plans for a virtual audience, as well as for those who were in the classroom. So, teaching in the best of times is a challenging and noble and such a vital profession. I'm going to do everything I can and have been doing everything I can to damn well make sure that it is appreciated and recognized. Now, let me pivot a little bit to the public service loan forgiveness program. Randy mentioned I'm co-chair. I'm actually one of the co-founders. We worked very closely with AFT and your wonderful office in DC. It was either 5 years ago or 7 years ago now when we co-founded this caucus. Parents and students, I think, are grateful for the efforts of teachers, especially, again, as I said, over the last year and a half. But this is a debt that needs to be paid. First, it goes without saying, we should pay teachers more. That would be a good way to repay that debt. But second, in addition to that, it would be by strengthening and expanding the public service loan forgiveness program. Now, as co-founder and co-chair of the caucus, I've spent my time in Congress, as I've mentioned, 7-8 years now, working to fix the broken PSLF program and making sure my colleagues in Congress never forget the promise that we made to selfless Americans like you who choose to devote their lives to public service. The public service loan forgiveness program is supposed to allow and was promised to folks that we would erase the balance of their student debt after working for a nonprofit or government employer for 10 years, making 120 qualifying monthly loan payments. But guess what we found? The acceptance rate for this program, 2%. Not 20%, not 10%, 2%. That was clearly a sign that this program was broken, that this was not a promise that was being kept by our federal government. A career in public service often requires more than an undergraduate degree. A master's degree typically means a higher salary for a teacher. My wife is one of those who went on to earn her master's degree in education. However, the salary in the public sector is typically lower than the private sector. We all recognize that. However, rising tuition costs and higher student loan bills are fueling this endless cycle of escalating borrowing, especially when it comes to paying for those graduate degrees. That's why I mentioned that previously. Yes, a master's degree might might come with a higher bump in salary. And thank God PFT in Philadelphia does a great job of negotiating for that with the Philadelphia School District. But it also means typically a much higher tuition payment for that graduate degree, which means much higher student loan balance. And so that's the situation that so many of our public service workers are in, especially teachers. Now, I'm here today to make sure that all of you are able to take advantage of this program and to help me spread the word and to make sure others do as well. Randy mentioned and was very generous in recognizing my advocacy to the White House. I personally picked up the phone and called my friend Steve Ricchetti about this some months ago before we got the successful decision by the Education Department to explain my own personal passion for this. One, given my own experience as the first of my family to go to college, someone who is still myself repaying tens of thousands of student loans. So that's number one. Number two, as the husband of a public school teacher, as I mentioned. But then also number three, as a member of Congress, I believe that the federal government makes a solemn promise to people and they devote at least 10 years of their life to public service, if not more, that we have an obligation to keep that promise. So I applaud the American Federation of Teachers in doing this program tonight to inform teachers on how they can take advantage of this program. And I will keep working in Congress to make sure this program works. That's a big reason why I helped to found the caucus some approximately 5 years ago. It's why I helped lead in the House an effort to reform it, even working with a Republican co-lead. Believe it or not, even in this challenging time, while it hasn't been perfect, we have had some bipartisan buy-in when it comes to this caucus. And I now have my own bill, the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Advancement Improvement Act. It just rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? The name. We'll work on the name, but for now, it's the PSLF Administrative Improvement Act. And that makes further common sense improvements to the administration of the program. So that way more people can qualify for it, successfully apply, and be accepted to the program. Last month, I led a letter to the Secretary of Education, Secretary Cardona. Obviously, as we talked about earlier, I'm glad that that effort has been successful. But finally, I do want to point out that despite these advancements, we now have approximately $1.8 trillion in student loan debt. That's a ticking time bomb to our economy. And in my view, and I'm not an economist, I maybe, play one on C-SPAN. But in my view, $1.8 trillion is unsustainable. If we face, and obviously we faced a major downturn last year because of the pandemic, although it ended up being a relatively short downturn given the historical duration of recessions. If we face another downturn, with the amount of $1.8 trillion in quickly growing student debt we have, I really worry not just for those who are in repayment of those student loans, but for the overall health of our economy. So much more needs to be done in this aspect. So finally, I'll just say again, I'm glad that we have recently had the success when it comes to the administration of this program. Far more, though, needs to be done. And I applaud the AFT in doing such a wonderful job of representing its members, representing teachers, as well as other professionals, and fighting for the students, the future of our country. With that, I'll yield back to you, Randy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Congressman, and good luck this week. I'm going to bring up Julie Morgan, and then Julie, after Julie speaks for a couple of minutes, Julie and Jerry and I will try to answer some questions. But, Julie Morgan, well, she's a senior advisor in the Office of the Undersecretary of the Department of Education. She served on the Biden-Harris transition as a member of the COVID-19 response team. I served with her on a Bernie, Elizabeth, Joe transition committee that led to what was in the platform. And with that, I just want to say very publicly, Julie, thank you for everything. And thank you for being involved and engaged in this work.
Well, thank you so much, Randy. And I just want to say right back to you, thank you for your work here. I can't emphasize enough the changes that we made to the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. We made them because it's a priority for the president and for the secretary, but we made them because we had a commitment to listen to people in the field who were actually had experience with public service loan forgiveness and worked every day with borrowers who had experience with it. And Randy and the team at AFT really led the charge there to help us, see what the problems were here, see what we needed to do, and make our way to the changes that we were able to announce this month. So thank you. And I'm really excited to be here with you and with Jerry and with Congressman Boyle to talk about, what some great news from the Department of Education. And obviously it's wonderful to talk about great news, but I think in particular for us, we really want to make sure that borrowers know how they can take advantage of this. I think Jerry said one of the biggest questions that you all get is, how does this apply to me? And, that's the thing that keeps me up at night. I want to make sure that every borrower who's eligible to benefit from the changes that we made knows how to do it. So I'll just talk a little bit about what those changes were, how you can take advantage of them, and some next steps, and then we can get on to questions. So, right. One of the major problems with PSLF that we saw, and that you probably know better than I do, is that borrowers who had student loans that are called FFEL loans or Perkins loans were not eligible. So people thought that they were on the track to get public service loan forgiveness, and then they found out that they had the wrong loan type, and that when they converted their loans to the right loan type, they missed out on all of those payments. And that's one of the major things that we were able to accomplish with what we're calling this waiver period, where during the next year, so before October 31st, 2022, if borrowers who had the wrong loan type consolidate those loans into the direct loan program and apply for public service loan forgiveness, we can count those payments. So if you had 5 years of public service on the wrong loan type and you consolidate in now, those 5 years will count. If you had already applied for public service loan forgiveness and already consolidated your loan and you had those 5 years hanging around that weren't counting, we're going to go back and automatically count those. So, for some borrowers, for all the changes we're making, we're trying to apply them as automatically as we possibly can. So some borrowers, and you may have heard of people who got emails from the Department of Education saying, hey, here's what you can expect. Your payment count will increase by this much. Those are the changes that we're making automatically where we can, where we have the information on file. But for other borrowers, you will have to take action. So if you have one of those FFEL or Perkins loans, a loan that's not directly held by the federal government, we'll need you to consolidate that into the direct loan program and apply for public service loan forgiveness by October 31st, 2022. So you have a whole year to do this. I suggest getting started right away. The consolidation process is pretty easy and straightforward, and it'll ask you if you're looking to apply for PSLF and help put you on the path towards doing that. If you've applied for PSLF, but some of your payments aren't counting, you might need to go back into your PSLF account and provide additional information about your public service work. So provide us that documentation that you're working in public service so that we can count those payments. And Federal Student Aid will send you a message letting you know what to do. The most important thing that we're telling borrowers is to make sure that you have up-to-date contact information with Federal Student Aid so that we're able to contact you and you don't have to contact us asking questions. If we know that you're interested in public service loan forgiveness, we can send you emails about how these changes apply and what you need to do by what deadline. And I just wanted to highlight that we made a couple of other changes that are going to roll out over the course of the next year that are going to help improve the impact of this waiver that's going into effect immediately. We're going to make sure that active duty service members can continue to make progress towards forgiveness, even if they deferred payments while they were in military service. We're going to do data matching programs with employers to automatically give credit for PSLF rather than forcing borrowers to fill out the paperwork. So for that, we'll be starting with other federal agencies, and then we'll explore similar partnerships with state and local governments. And as Randy alluded to earlier, we're going to do everything we can to fix the past mistakes in the program. I know that there are a lot of borrowers who have had bad experiences and feel like they got the wrong information from their servicer or that their loans weren't processed correctly. Federal Student Aid is going to look through and review denied applications to identify and correct errors. We're contracting with an outside company to help us identify those errors, make the changes for the borrowers who are hurt by them, and then make the changes we need going forward so that people have a better experience with public service loan forgiveness. And I'd like to say that we can change everything all at once. I would love to be able to change everything about PSLF in the time that I'm at the department, but it'll take time. But we're committed to working with AFT and with other partners to help identify and fix the problems that we can, even if we have to change the law to do so. So I'm excited to be here and happy to answer your questions. The good news is that you have until Halloween of 2022. So people have a full year to take advantage of these changes. But I think it's also a good opportunity to talk about the fact that, with any big announcement like this, the information can get a little bit confusing. So FSA, the Department of Education, and Federal Student Aid are doing everything we can to get people clear information. And one of the things we did was to set up a website. It's studentaid.gov/PSLF waiver. And that's where we're posting all of the accurate information about this. It's where we'll post updates as, things become available, like different tools to help you or other information that you need to know. So if you're looking for information, you can always go there.
You just talked a little bit about FSA. And so could you, there are some people who have heard from FSA already. There's some people who haven't. People are asking the question, does that mean I'm not eligible? What does it mean? What email address should I be looking out for? What should I make sure is not in my spam file? So could you kind of help us on that?
Sure. So it's true that a batch of emails went out, I think maybe 2 weeks ago, with some exciting Friday afternoon news for a lot of borrowers who got an email saying that they can expect their payment counts to increase. And for some of those people, it got them to 120 payments and they were on their way to getting their loan forgiven. That's not the only set of emails that we're going to send out. That was the first set. So it doesn't mean, if you didn't get an email, it doesn't mean that you're not eligible to benefit from these changes. The best thing that you can do right now is to log onto Federal Student Aid's website. So go to studentaid.gov and update your FSA account. If you don't have one, you can sign up for one. But if you do have one, make sure that the email address that's with your account is your most up-to-date email address, because that's the address that FSA is using to contact borrowers. And, we're going to try, and I'm hopeful that the next time around we'll do an even better job of alerting partners like AFT so that they can help us get the message out to check your email when those emails go out to borrowers. But like I said earlier, those emails tend to be going, the first set of emails are going to people who are getting kind of these automatic changes to their payment accounts. So we'll see some more of those emails go out, but there'll also be emails that will go out to borrowers who maybe need to provide us with a little bit more information. So we're going to do the best we can to keep a steady flow of information to borrowers about how this change benefits them and what they need to do.
And that kind of gets to, thank you, Julie. I'm going to come back to you in a minute. That kind of gets to a couple of questions that, I get all the time. But Jerry, I'm sure you get this all the time. And a member from Philly has also, texted us. So the member from Philly wants to say first, thank you, Jerry, for all the work you do, but also wants to know how to get help from the union to do the paperwork for PSLF. Like, what should that member do?
All the member needs to do is, and if they forget what I say, they can call our office and we will help them on the phone. But what they will need to do is to just go to www.aft.org, PSLF, and that they're going to be able to get the benefit of summer. And summer will help them.
We know the information from FSA right now is going to be as accurate as possible. And we also know the information from aft.org/PSLF is as accurate as we know it can be. And we are in constant touch with Julie Morgan, with James Fall, with others, because we're all in on wanting to make sure that this is an administration that wants to make sure that everybody gets the benefit of this bargain. Everybody gets the benefit of this promise. So for AFT members, you can get tons of information out of www.aft.org/PSLF. You can also request a student debt clinic. And with this information comes also a benefit that we have made available for every member, including associate members, which essentially is a navigator to all of this work. And that's summer. And you can get that access again from aft.org/PSLF. Now, if it's your son or your daughter that needs the benefit of summer, that will cost something, unless, of course, somebody is an associate membership or an associate member. But if you are a member and have a debt, you can get the benefit of summer for free, and that will help navigate through all of this. So, Julie, I have this question for you, which is, of course, there's going to be like, what about Parent Plus loans? What do we do about Parent Plus loans? I'm sure you've gotten that question a gazillion times.
Yeah, we're taking a lot of questions about the program, and this one comes up quite a bit. Unfortunately, the limited waiver piece of the announcement that we made a few weeks ago does not apply to Parent Plus borrowers. That's not to say that Parent Plus borrowers won't benefit from some of the other things that we announced, like the data matching efforts that we're going to undertake or the reviews of denied applications. But the piece where we're going back and counting failed payments, or looking at people who are in the wrong loan type or had missed their payment by a little bit, those are not applying to Parent Plus borrowers at this time. But I just want to say, I meant what I said earlier. We know that these are first steps to fix the program. We're committed to continuing to make fixes to it in the long term. So the things that we announced don't represent all of the things that we could do to change PSLF, and we're still listening and learning. And this is, continues to be an important area of consideration for us.
Thank you, Julie. I'm going to do one more question for Julie, one more question for Jerry, and then one of the commonly asked questions, I'll take it myself, which is, what happens if somebody is not in public service? So I'll do that afterwards. But the question we get from a lot of people, Julie, is that my servicer told me we're not going to service loans anymore, and there will be a new servicer. So, we keep telling people that's because there's actually now someone who's going to do accurate oversight and not let the servicers get away with all the stuff that they got away with. And so you see how many of them are now quitting this work. But, that's because there's a new sheriff in town. That's great. But what happens? How is all of this going to work?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we have new leadership at Federal Student Aid right now. We have Rich Cordray. I'm very thankful to have him there. He takes accountability for loan servicers really seriously. And he wants to make sure that they're providing you all with the best possible customer service. We've renewed the contracts with a number of the loan servicers, but there are a couple that did say they'd like to leave the program. And among them is FIA, who services public service loan forgiveness. We also had Granite State, which is a smaller servicer, exit the program. And those transitions are going to be happening. Some of them are happening now for Granite State borrowers, and some of them are going to happen towards the end of this year and into next year. The best I can say right now is that when and if your loan is transferring, you'll get outreach directly from Federal Student Aid. You'll get outreach from your old servicer, the new servicer that's taking the loan, and we'll post the information on Federal Student Aid, studentaid.gov as well, to try to give you the most information possible about these loan transfers. And I want you to know that FSA is taking care to make sure that we're being extra careful in transferring these public service loan forgiveness accounts, because we know we have a lot of borrowers in there who are keeping careful track of their payments and are really concerned about any disruptions in that. And so they're working really hard on those loan transfers. And that may mean that those loans are transferred a little bit farther down the road than some of the other ones. So we got a lot of big things on our plate at Federal Student Aid right now, including the new PSLF announcements, these loan transfers, and the return of student loans to repayment in January. And, we're going to do the best that we can to balance all those things. And our top priority there is to make sure that in all of those transfers, if there are bumps and bruises, those are on the department and not on the borrower. And we'll do everything that we can to make sure that borrowers are not harmed in the process.
Thank you, Julie. So, Jerry, I'm going to give you the last question. I'm going to, though, just answer the question that I often get now that we've done all this in terms of PSLF. What about all those people who are not in public service? And look, we estimate that we will be able to help over 500,000 borrowers. That's more than the people we represent who are in this situation.
This is kind of like bargaining for the common good, trying to help lots of people lift all boats, particularly working people who work paycheck to paycheck. But so we estimate about 500,000 people, borrowers, are going to be benefiting from the type of changes that the Ed Department did and that we negotiated in terms of the settlement of Weingarten versus DeVos. But we're also still fighting for the broader student debt cancellation up to $50,000 per borrower. And we're also still fighting for all of that. But I want to end with, before I do a quick close, with Jerry. You have been in the classroom. You represent lots of people who are in the classroom. You just had a very big, tough fight, not only in terms of long-term saving the Philadelphia public school system, but in making sure that members, are on the road to being paid decently, and always fighting in a city urban setting for the conditions that people need to teach and kids need to learn. So how do you think that fixing public service loan forgiveness will actually help educators remain in education?
Thank you, Randy. Helping union members thrive is what the PFT and the AFT have always been about. If we remove the economic obstacles for teachers and other school-related personnel, and remove the economic obstacles so that they'll remain in the profession, everyone will thrive. So the students are going to thrive, the communities are going to thrive, teachers and their families and other employees in our schools are going to thrive. It's the work that we have always done and will continue to do as union leaders.
Thank you, Jerry, so much. And I just want to say to everyone who's out there, it's a very fraught moment. There's lots of reasons it would be better if the country was more unified in terms of taking on our challenges together. But at least in this moment in time, know that this administration hurt us. And whereas the last administration didn't care about public service, made it much harder for people who are in public service to actually be respected, get a raise. This administration has now made good on the promise that past administrations have done, bipartisan and otherwise, of public service loan forgiveness. We have lots and lots of resources, and our goal is to make sure that everyone sees a zero balance in their student debt account, that everyone gets the benefit of this bargain in terms of you paid for 10 years, you get your loan forgiven, that you don't have to go through this kind of agita ever again in terms of an administration basically saying, or a servicer saying no instead of yes, to try to get you through that finish line. And you deserve it. You deserve a lot more than that. And I just want to say thank you to our guest, Julie Morgan, Representative Brenda Boyle, and President Jerry Jordan for the work they've done on this, for being so clear in terms of their answers tonight. Thanks very much, everybody.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Union Talk. Remember to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast and tune in every other week for a new episode. Thank you, be safe, and be well.